Hi guys, how are you all? Hope you guys are all good. Not quite sure if the lighting is good enough. Yeah. I think you guys can see me, right? Here I am. What an absolute disaster for Dominic Thiem. Can you guys believe it? Can you guys believe what has happened here? Thiem is out in the first round. He's a clay courter. He loves to play on clay. He was the 2018 finalist and the 2019 finalist. Guys, do you remember the French Open final 2019? We're at one set all over 2 hours. He was pushing Nadal in those rallies like no one ever had in that final, 2.5 hours. But Nadal just maintained that extreme level for another 2 hours, and Thiem couldn't really do it. So he ended up going for too much and hitting errors and all of this sort of thing. Because the level to beat Nadal and clay, you're hitting the ball very hard, very close to the line. Have to do it for 4 or 5 hours. So his game dropped off a bit, and the margins were so fine with the power near the line. But the point is, the first two sets, he was pushed Nadal for 2.5 hours, equal at his level. And part of the reason he couldn't maintain it that year was because he had to beat Djokovic for 5 sets and just stayed in that for 5 hours and stayed in that high level for 2.5 hours with Nadal, right? Guys, I don't know about the light here. I guess I'm going to have to switch rooms as I talk to you. Here we are. I think that's a bit better. But what I was saying was, I really just felt like, yeah, that's better. I really just felt like that year in 2019, Thiem played great to get to the final. He had to battle for 5 hours with Djokovic. It went over 2 days, and then after 2 days in a row with the rain delay, having to play Nadal, and you'd think he'd be tired, but instead he's pushing Nadal harder than he ever had and playing that level that he can almost outdo Nadal at his own game. The power to get through the slow clay court, time to set up big strokes, consistency, great defense, and just matching Nadal at an extreme high level. And I think that was the peak for me of his clay court level, being better than Djokovic and being right there on Nadal's level. And even the year before, he was in the final, 2017 semi-finals, last year quarterfinals at the French Open, but he had just come off winning the US Open and being on hard courts and traveling back to Europe and being exhausted and everything that's associated with that. So it's just the physical feeling that he only made the quarterfinals, but even in his worst physical state, he's still at the quarterfinals because that's how good he is. Because it was, and you saw him getting better. Semi-finals 2017, final in 2018, not that close. Final in 2019, where he's beating Djokovic and for 2.5 hours staying right on an equal footing, pushing Nadal to his limits, and probably could have won that match if he didn't have to have a 5-hour match against Djokovic and then have to do it again and didn't get a day off to refresh between possibly two long 5-hour matches. So then he runs out of steam after 2.5 hours. But Nadal got Federer on the Friday, got a day off, was fresh, and was ready to go the 5 hours. For him, it's 5 hours with Djokovic 2 days in a row, then having to do it again with Nadal, but did it for 2.5 hours and showed if he had a day off or had an easier semi-final. And next time, he might beat Nadal, and he can actually match Nadal at Roland Garros. He was right there. But like I said, that was his best year, but the final the year before, and then semi-final the year before that. So he's one of the best clay court players for many years, So to go down here and then, like I said, even last year, exhausted off the US Open, no time to change from hard court to clay, no time traveling across, probably having to take the whole 2 weeks between French and US and French Open, no preparation, exhausted, still in that state, even then makes quarterfinals last year. So what's happened for him to go? Probably the tournament that he has the best chance of success, the French Open, the tournament he's proven he's beat Djokovic the last couple of times here. Like I said, the last time against Nadal, he was at an equal footing and only probably ran out of steam against Nadal because he had to go 5 sets with Djokovic over 2 days and not have a day off. I mean, come on. This guy was great at Roland Garros. For me, over the last number of years, he's proven to be the second best at Roland Garros behind Nadal, I would say from 17, since 2017. And he's out. It's not the surface, it's not anything else. He's great here at Roland Garros. But he just played terrible on this particular day. And it wasn't this day. This poor level has been on a hard court. Um, yeah, it's been on a hard court, right? At the start of the year, like ATP Cup, Australian Open, 4th round. But then, like, he went to the Middle East, Qatar, Dubai. One of them, he went down the 1st round, the other the 2nd round. Then he was already in a disaster. Takes time off, looks a bit better in Madrid at the semi-finals. Rome in his 1st round there, which I think is the 2nd round, Dominic Thiem. I mean, come on. When you look at him, he was like better in Madrid and looked like the break and being on clay had helped him. But then I think it was Fucsovics in his first match in Rome. Looked really off, but found a way to get through there. But then lost against Sonego the next match, but didn't play too bad. But then but I feel like it's definitely better in Madrid than Rome because, like in Rome, he's already just surviving his 1st round anyway, and then 2nd round, like he loses but plays a decent level. So reduction in form from Madrid. But then Leon to go Cameron Norrie on clay in Leon has nothing to offer. He's like a David Ferrer type. He'll just keep it on. He won't really disrupt your game. He'll just give you rallies. And if you're feeling, what more do you want? A clay court and Cameron Norrie, who's going to give you rallies on clay, but it's not going to really have power to get through the court. And it just should be rallies that you're controlling and overpowering him. But that didn't happen. But he had a disaster. He didn't just lose to Cameron Norrie, who was going to give him rallies, doesn't have the weapons to threaten him. It's clay. He lost like 6-3, 6-2. It was horrible. And then up 2 sets to love, I felt like the first 2 sets, he wasn't where he needed to be, but he had improved in the French Open 1st round. The first 2 sets, he was up and down and hot and cold, but there are moments he looked quite good, that he looked like the old Dominic Thiem. Much better than we've seen this year, but he didn't consistently keep it, but he did it enough to win those first 2 sets. And like I said, you don't want to peak on the 1st round anyway, so that's a good enough level, really, to possibly win the tournament because even though you're up and down, right, and you're playing great level, but it's not consistent, but it's enough to get by. That's what the great players do. The 2nd round is better, the 3rd round is better, and then you'll peak in the 2nd week. But you don't want to be at your best, right? But you want to be at least a decent kind of level. And he looked a lot better. He was on and off, but he was more on than off, and he was doing enough to get by. That's what the best players do, and they improve every round. But then from there, the inconsistency happened where the times he was playing poorly were more than the times that he was playing great. And then Andadar got confidence from that, won a 3rd set, then believed maybe I can do this. And then when he won the 4th set, now he's like, I've got all the momentum. He believed he's going at Thiem, he's playing at his best level he could play and confident. And now Thiem, after all the losses this year, 2 sets in a row against him, all the momentum against him, he doesn't have the confidence from previous wins to draw to stop the match at that point, to say, Forget about the last 2 sets. I'm gonna win in the big moments because he's lost all the big moments in all the matches. He needed to get a win to get confidence, but with momentum against him, with momentum against him and the confidence against him and all of that, and all the losses together, he didn't have the confidence in him to weather that storm, to say, even though things are against me, I still believe, right? He didn't have that. He needed to end it earlier and to get confidence from a win. But like if things go against you and you're up 2 sets and it goes 5, but you've been winning a lot previously, you have that to draw for. But he was in a mentally unstable situation from all the losses. He couldn't handle those 2 sets in a row against him. So now he's got no confidence from all his previous losses, no confidence from losing 2 sets in a row, but he did have one last stand at the start of that 5th set, but then again fell away with a whole lot of errors. He said it himself. He's slow running around the court. His shots are missing. He doesn't have the power that he used to have. So we're also talking about a guy who's been the last 4 years second best at the French Open, losing in the first round at the French Open. So that in itself is a disaster. And then to lose it up 2 sets to love it makes it worse. And then to know the previous tournament on clay, you also lost in the first round, right? And then third round in Rome, your second round, we're down a set and almost lost in the first round there. If Fucsovics was a bit better, so it's only Madrid where you made the semi-finals that you've had decent tennis. So the fact that like Thiem is playing horribly, right? In his in his best surface, a place where he's dominated, a place where he's beat Djokovic, a place where last time he played Nadal, he matched him for 2.5 hours in a way that Djokovic can't even do, or very few could do. And then this wasn't like Nadal in 2015 when Djokovic beat him. This was a much better Nadal. He pushed him. So this guy is great here. But then for him to fall to this level, where it was almost a set first round loss in Rome, first round loss in Lyon, first round loss at the French Open, first round, I think it was in Qatar or Dubai. One of them was first, the other second round. Fourth round at the Australian Open, but he was losing set 6-love, 6-2, or 6-love. I don't know what it was, but it was a disaster there. The whole year's been a disaster at clay and hard court. He's lost about 50% of his first round matches this year. And even at the French Open, where he's been able to match Nadal and been consistently the second best there for the past 4 years, it's still a disaster and it's still a first round loss. And even up 2 sets to love can't save him. Thiem's career is in an absolute disaster because, like I said, almost every tournament this year he's went out the first or second round, right? And it's happened on hard court, it's happened on clay, it's happened on the French Open where he's dominated. It's happened in the first round of the French Open when he was up 2 sets to love. It happened in the first round of Lyon, his second round in Rome, first and second rounds in Dubai and Qatar. The year's been a disaster. And the only thing that would be more shocking than this is if Nadal went out in the first round of the French Open. But he's been the second best behind Nadal here. So he's to the point where we're halfway through the year. The whole year's been a disaster. It's been on clay and hard court. It doesn't matter. So what can Thiem do now? His best surface, his clay season is done. So hard court, he probably thought, I'll go to clay and it'll get better, but it hasn't got better, and now there's no clay for him to play the rest of the year. So now it's grass and hard court. So what can he do now? Go to grass where he's never been successful? How's he going to be successful there? Like, he didn't do well on hard court. He went to his best surface, clay, like I said. That didn't help him. So even in his best surface, it's a complete disaster. So how is he going to leave his best surface, clay, and go to his worst surface, grass, when he's at an all-time low of his career? Should he just take the rest of the year off, perhaps? Because for me, if you can't win a match on clay, and even when you were in a position when you could be in the French Open final, you've still had years when your level was that high on clay at the French Open final, you're still going out in the first round of Wimbledon, right? So if the best Dominic Thiem on clay in the French Open final goes out first round on grass, what happens to the Thiem who's losing first and second round every tournament on clay and hard court? What happens when you put that Dominic Thiem, who can't even do anything on his best surface, and you throw him on his worst surface, grass? Well, for me, if he goes out in the first round when he's at his best on clay and a Grand Slam finalist, now at his worst when he can't even win on clay, even a match, it's just going to be a complete disaster for him to try grass. There's no hope for me. Because like he can't say he's ever done anything on grass. He could say, even if I was confident my best level and I went to grass, like I'd still lose in the first round. But now I can't win on any surface. So if I can't win anywhere, I can't win on clay. Why go to the grass? And just say to be even worse and just to be humiliated one more time. And you won't be in a fifth set there because you're in a bit. You can only get to a fifth set because it's your best surface. So your worst surface, you'll be losing in straight sets in first rounds, and you'll just get humiliated one time after the other. So it's a very difficult situation for Thiem. Like when you're getting humiliated on your best surface, to say, what do you do now? Do you go to grass and say it's going to be even worse for you than it was on clay? Because even when your career was at your best point, you were horrible on grass. So to be more horrible now because you can't even win on clay? Or do you just take the rest of the year off and say it's just not going for me? Or do you just think about defending your US Open title? Say, I'm going to take it off until the sort of play maybe the US hard court season and maybe get some momentum there into the US Open, but give it a couple of months. Don't play until August, perhaps early August, in the build up for the US Open. Maybe play Washington DC and Toronto and Cincinnati, or Toronto and Cincinnati alone. So Thiem, I think it's really a crisis right now. There's nothing for him to look forward to. There's no hope for it to turn around. He hasn't won on his best surface, and he's coming into a time where they're going to be playing on his. Sorry, he can't win on his best surface, and now they're coming into a time where they're going to be playing on his worst surface when he can't even win a match on his best surface. So logic's got to tell you he's got no chance at all of winning a match now there, because there were years at his best he couldn't win a match there. So what do you do when you can't win on your best surface and then the next part of the tour is on your worst surface? For me, it's a very difficult situation. It's a situation that presents no chance to turn it around in the short term. Like if there was maybe more clay, you never know. Give it another go, another go, another go. But the whole clay season's ended and he failed, and now we're going to his worst surface. So his career's in a crisis. I don't think it's worth trying even on grass. I don't think he can win a match because he can barely win a match on clay. So really, his career is in crisis. Like Thiem didn't start to play well till he got to around 25 years old. He was a late bloomer. He wasn't up at the top at 22 years old, right? He wasn't doing well early in his career. So you'd think if he's starting late, he'll end late into his 30s, but he could be starting late and ending early because he's 28 and he looks like he's past his prime. So it's just a very short prime from 2018 to 2020, and then it's over. That could be a possibility. But really, when you've failed through your best season on clay and now you can't play on clay the rest of the year, and you're going to a place grass where you could never even win on your best years, it's a very difficult situation for Thiem. And I don't think he has a chance to turn it around until at least next year. So an option could be just to end the year right now and to say there's no more clay. And if I can't win on clay, why should I win on another surface? So not bother. And think about the Australian Open. Or the other option is perhaps take a break until the lead up to the US Open and saying the good memories of winning last year, that could turn it around. But of course, you're going to need, if you're off for 2 months, you're going to need at least Toronto and Cincinnati to get it back, possibly Washington, D.C. So I think you should think about those, but for him to do well on grass, he would have had to use the French Open to get him at his best level and saying, now I'm at a high level, I'll try to do better on grass than I did in the past. But if he can't do it on clay, forget grass. It'll just be a disaster. It'll just take away his confidence worse. It's not going to happen. You need to do well on your best surface if you have a chance to do well on your worst. So for me, it could be the end of Thiem's career. Not the end as far as he'll retire, but the end as far as him having a chance to be in Grand Slam quarterfinals, semifinals, semifinals, final in Masters of 1000. We may never see that again, but I think at the very least, we won't see it until 2022. So the question is, can he pick up the pieces next year, or will he never pick up the pieces? But his career is in crisis. This is a complete disaster. It's not just that he's not winning tournaments on clay on his best surface, he's not even winning matches. It's that much of a low, and now we're moving to his worst surface for this whole thing to compound and him to be possibly humiliated and losing set 6 love. That's where he is right now, and I think he needs to say, do I think about the US Open or do I cancel the rest of my year? But really, the best case for him is that he gets his game back next year. The worst case is he never gets it back. Tries a couple of more years, it never works, gets to 30 and just says, I'm just going to retire early. Those are, I think, the options. But we should really understand that for Thiem, like we fought last year when Thiem played Medvedev in the World Tour Finals. Both of them got one win against Nadal and one win against Djokovic. The changing of the guard was here. Now we're nowhere near the changing of the guard because Thiem and Medvedev, the best two, have capitulated. It could be, but at least with Medvedev, you can say this is his worst surface. Once the clay season, he could go back on a winning run. But this is unique to just the clay for him. But for Thiem, clay is his best. So once you leave clay, it's going to get even worse. So that's why he needs to say, is it a couple of months off, the US Open, or is it the whole year off? And really, but my best shot to be better is next year. It's either next year or all my good times are in the past. But Thiem is in a career crisis. All this is a disaster. It's the whole year. It's hard court, it's clay, it's all the clay events, it's the French Open, it's the combination of everything. And Thiem's career is in a complete disaster. And his career is completely in crisis. And we're looking at next year as the earliest point where he can start to improve, at least the road to improvement, not where he was. And maybe he'll be on the road to improvement next year. And 2023, we'll see the Thiem that we used to see. But yeah, it's a very difficult situation for him. It's going to mean Nadal and Djokovic are going to get their best players that could challenge them would be Medvedev and Thiem, but Thiem's going to be out of action, not going to be anywhere near that for a while. So then the whole thing about Nadal and Djokovic having a challenger is all going to come down to Medvedev. But that's it. I wasn't going to do a video until the quarterfinals unless I could get my interview of Rafael Nadal. But if I don't get Nadal in the next 24 hours, I probably won't get him until after the French Open. And then I'll have my quarterfinal preview of the French Open semifinal and final. We're going to do that. So I'll be back in about a week from now with that. And if I get Nadal, I'll be back before then. But, you know, I'm going to go through the whole tournament, quarterfinal, semifinal, final, review the tournament, get an interview with Nadal possibly after he's won it all, maybe in the next day. We've got a lot going on. We've got Wimbledon. So much is coming up on this channel, and we're really looking forward to the GOAT of tennis is going to be decided probably this tournament, the next 3 months. So yeah. So remember, quarterfinals, semifinals, final. Then we're going to review the whole tournament. Then we're going to go into another video of the GOAT debate. Once we've got the result of the French Open, possibly interview Nadal and ask him how he feels about his 21st Grand Slam if it happens. So subscribe for all of these things, bell notification, thumbs up. See you guys in about a week, like when the 4th round of the French Open's ending and we're getting into the quarterfinals. And I'll review the tournament so far and preview the quarterfinals. Be back next week, guys, and enjoy the French Open. Bye for now. Thumbs up, subscribe, bell notification, guys. You'll love your subscription. Bye for now, guys. Thanks for watching.